What you're looking at here is the Yale SP100 score and perf machine. You can either score paper, perforate it, or do both at the same time. It has one scoring wheel and one perforating wheel, which rests on a bar inside of the machine. And let me see if you can see it here. Try and get you a good look. These are the wheels right here. This here is the scoring wheel. This is the perforating wheel. And these three here are rubber wheels that kind of help guide the paper through the machine. It does have this little wire here so that when it's perforating the paper, it keeps it from wrapping back up into the machine. And it does have an Allen wrench which comes with it, which allows you to loosen the wheels and slide them back and forth to give you a little bit more of an adjustment as to where you're going to actually be scoring and perforating. Now this tray here comes off and easily goes back on. Just fits in these two grooves here. And this is the exit tray, which is where the paper will leave the machine. And really, as far as perforating is concerned, perforating is very popular for creating tickets, coupons, brochures, advertisements, mailers, and perforation basically puts little tiny holes along paper. It's kind of like what you would see with your checkbook when you're ripping out a check. It is perforated so it'll allow you to tear the paper out. The scoring puts a crease through the paper, which makes it easier to fold. Scoring is very popular with making table tents, which is basically a sheet of paper which is folded in half and sits on top of the table. Some people will score their business cards so that they sit upright on a table surface. They can also be used for a variety of different projects. Inside the machine here is the feed bar, the insert that provides support to the paper as it's entering the machine. These guides on the left and right can be loosened up and slid to adjust the paper. Now this particular machine can accommodate paper from 3.5 inches wide to 12 inches wide, and it can handle anything from your standard 20-pound copy paper up to 110-pound cardstock. It has a 14-tooth perf wheel, which means it perforates 14 holes per inch as it runs through the machine. And if you look down in here, you will notice that there is a rubber wheel in there that grasps the paper and pulls it through the machine. Because it does use friction, this machine would not work with glossy or semi-glossy paper, because the rubber wheel would slip on that and cause the machine to jam. Now, there's a dial here on the side of the machine that you can turn to the left to loosen and turn to the right to tighten the retarder, which basically grasps the paper or loosens its grip on the paper to pull sheets through the machine. If you notice that 2 or 3 sheets are being pulled through at once, you're going to need to tighten that up. If it's not pulling any sheets through at all, you're going to need to loosen that up. If for any reason the circuit breaker, which is built into the machine, does trip, it's just right here and you can push it in to reset it. Now, right now I have the perforating wheel and scoring wheel pretty much set in place where they're out of the box. I'll show you how to adjust those in just a minute. First of all, I'm going to put through some 80-pound cardstock. I've already adjusted the retarder on it so that it will grasp the paper properly. I will show you 20-pound paper here as well. Now this is just black cardstock. It's fairly thick, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be perforating and scoring this. Now if I wanted to, I could also run it through the 11-inch width way, because it can handle anything up to 12 inches wide. Now before I load the paper into the machine, you will want to make sure that the guides are set in place properly. You're going to want to make sure that there's hardly any play in it at all. And right now it's pretty snug. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more by loosening the brackets. You can just take your fingers and kind of push it together. Now you're going to want to make sure when you're trying to perforate or score a certain spot, you can actually put your head down and see where the perforating and scoring wheels are. And you can kind of adjust that so you can get it exactly where you want it. Now when you have it just where you want it, make sure that those guides stay tight, and you don't want to loosen it back up so that every time you load more paper into the machine, it will perforate or score in the exact same place every time. Now I've adjusted the friction wheel so that it will grab the paper and pull one through at a time. If for any reason we're pulling more than one through at a time, I could tighten the retarder by turning this dial here clockwise. If it weren't pulling the paper through at all, I could turn it to the left and loosen it a little bit. Now I'm going to run some 20-pound paper through as well. I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. So I'll turn the machine on right now. Now if I were doing a larger stack and there were a little bit more play in the paper, there is a weighted bracket that you can actually set in here into the guides, and it just sits in there and kind of keeps the paper weighted down. It just makes it a little bit easier for the paper to feed through the machine. In this case I didn't use it because I wasn't doing very much paper. And you'll notice that one portion of it is scored. There's a line going down it. I don't know how well you can see that. It is also perforated, which means it can, of course, be easily bent or torn. And you'd use that if you were using a coupon or a ticket or some kind of a mailer that had a special on there that you had to tear off. Now, we'll only do one perforation per pass. So if you need to perforate it one direction, then have it be perforated another direction, you would have to readjust it to do that. Now, for some reason I didn't want to score the paper, you will need to turn this until the Allen hole shows up. Okay. Now, if you need easier access, these screws will come out and the plate will pull out. But this tool, which comes with the machine, just goes inside there. You just turn it counterclockwise. And this is the scoring wheel I'm playing around with right now. And you'll notice that it's now able to move along that bar. And once I've got it about where I want it, I can tighten it back up. Let's say I don't want to use it at all. I can just slide it over to the side, out of the range of the paper, and tighten that back up. Now I can run more paper through it. Let me grab some more. I'll put that exit tray back on it. And now we're going to perforate some standard 20-pound paper. Now, if for any reason these guides here are too loose, I can tighten that back up. It's just about right now. So I'm going to turn that on. And you'll notice on the paper here that I haven't scored anything. All I have done is perforated. Now, if for some reason I wanted that perforation a little bit closer to the center, I could loosen that up. I'd need to loosen the bottom perforation, disc and the top perforation disc, and slide those both over whichever direction I wanted to perforate and tighten those back up. Now, if for any reason I need to tear that, it easily tears because that has been perforated. And really, for just basic perforation and basic paper scoring, this machine does a great job.